All right, let's dive right into today's explainer, where we're breaking down a fascinating real-world experiment from an urban gardener who is just trying to survive some seriously extreme climate conditions. Look, if you've ever battled the weather to keep your plants alive, you know exactly how frustrating it is when nature just flat out refuses to cooperate. Well, today we're looking at a brilliant iterative solution to a very specific environmental puzzle. We're going to examine how taking two completely different materials and slapping them together created this surprisingly resilient defense against severe mood swings in the weather. To anchor us right out of the gate, we're pulling from a journal entry dated May 12, 2026, by a seriously dedicated gardener named Ang. And I want you to notice that little detail in the parentheses right there. Part 892. I mean, that is wild. This isn't just some fleeting theory or random weekend project. This is a battle-tested strategy born from a massive catalog of deep, continuous observation. Ang literally notes that it took moons of observations to finally settle on this setup. It's the scientific method applied right in the backyard, driven purely by necessity. Section 1. The Tropical Weather Challenge, Tropical Extremes. So, to really get why this solution is so clever, we first have to understand the stakes. Ang is dealing with a climate that doesn't just gradually change, it violently swings from one extreme to the absolute other. From roughly January to February, the garden just bakes under a severe heat wave. And then, right when the soil is completely parched, March through May brings the exact opposite, torrential, heavy downpours. This crazy whiplash from blistering heat to massive monsoons perfectly sets up the problem. A strategy that works for the drought, it might completely fail in the rain, and vice versa. Section 2. Layer 1. LECA pebbles. Okay, so Ang's very first line of defense against that brutal early-year heat wave was LECA, Lightweight Expanded Clay Aggregate. Now, if you're in the gardening space, you probably know exactly what we're talking about here. Those dark, browned, highly porous clay pebbles. But they aren't just decorative rocks to make your pots look nice. Their specific physical structure actually makes them an incredibly functional tool in a gardener's arsenal. During that baking heat wave, those porous pebbles basically act as a physical shield. By blocking the harsh tropical sun from directly beating down onto the dirt, the LECA helps hold on to that vital moisture and drastically cuts down on evaporation. As a first-line defense during a severe drought, it did exactly what it was supposed to do. It was a solid win. Section 3. Enter coconut-coir, the missing layer. But here is the absolutely crucial yes but factor. Yes, LECA fixed the evaporation problem when it was hot. But what happens when the calendar flips to March, those heavy rains arrive, and the sky just opens up? Well, Ang's moons of observation revealed a massive blind spot. While the clay pebbles were awesome at blocking the sun, they completely failed to stop soil from splashing everywhere during the rainy season's heavy downpours. The water would smack into the pebbles, shoot through the gaps between them, and just churn up the dirt underneath. It created a total mess, potentially exposing the delicate roots and washing away the topsoil. And, this failure is where the real innovation happens. Instead of getting frustrated and throwing out the LECA entirely, Ang made a strategic course correction. They brought in a completely new material to cover that critical blind spot, coconut-coir, which you might also know as coco-fibre. Ang realized that surviving this kind of extreme weather required a layered approach, quite literally. Section 4. The dual-layer synergy, working together. Let's actually contrast these two materials side by side. As Ang figured out, coconut-coir is really the heavy lifter of the two. The coco-fibre is genuinely better at moisture retention, way better at stopping that destructive soil splash during downpours. It suppresses weeds, and it regulates temperature. It does a lot. But, and this is key, the liquor wasn't discarded. It keeps its place right on top of the coir because of its aesthetic appeal and its porous nature. The gaps between the pebbles make it an absolutely perfect surface for scattering seeds. The seeds just fall right through the rocks, rest safely on the damp, protected coir down below, and sprout upward. So what we ultimately get here is a synergistic, dual-layer mulch. By teaming these materials up, Ang covers every single base. The coconut-coir handles the grueling heavy lifting of the torrential rains and deep temperature regulation, while the LECA provides that initial sun shield, the visual structure, and a perfect protected bed for seeds. What was once an individual failure during the rain has been completely transformed into this comprehensive, weatherproof system. It's just brilliant. I want to wrap up today's explainer with Ang's exact final thought from the journal, because it kind of hits the nail on the head. Quote, "What began as a practical strategy to survive the extremes of tropical weather has turned into something else. By just trying to solve the annoying everyday problem of evaporation and splashing mud, Ang accidentally engineered a totally dynamic, aesthetic, self-generating ecosystem. And honestly, it leaves us with this final provocative thought to take away. How often do the obstacles and extreme opposing forces in our own lives hold the exact raw ingredients we need to stop just surviving and start designing something beautifully resilient? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep observing out there, and I will catch you on the next one.